So nice to see everybody. Thanks for coming in today on this lovely, like 80-something degree day, sun shining. But just like on bad days, like when it's rainy and things are hard, we show up on the yoga mat. The dedicated ones show up even when it's pretty. We show up in the best and the worst of times. So thank you all for being here. Go ahead, sit on the floor, cross your shins, one in front of the other. Put your foot underneath the knee of its opposite side. So make sure your feet aren't pulled close to your groin, but they're moved forward. So they're underneath the knee joint. So your thighs lift a little. Place your hands about middle of your thigh, push down. Lift your spine up nice and tall. Drop the shoulders away from your neck. Take another breath, flex your feet. Push your feet into the floor a little. Push your hands into your thighs. Lift your spine up again. Keep that lifted spine, and that includes your head and neck. Neck is a part of the spine, so lift up, drop the shoulders, let the eyes close for a moment. You can relax the arms, but keep that lifted spine. Keep that uprising action, so gravity is not compressing down as hard. And sit with your eyes closed for a minute, taking in your breath, taking in the qualities that you would describe your breath as. Is your breath slow, fast, happy, scared, short, long? Identify what you're going through with your breathing. It's the first of all the parts and pieces of ourselves we start to figure out in yoga. And then we go into asana, and then more pranayama, and then more meditative. But before you start moving your body today in this practice, feel what's going on with it through your breath. Feel what you've gone through to get here onto the yoga mat. Was it an easy day, a hard day? What are you carrying with you from that day? Does it show up in your breath at all? Was it an easy day and so your breath is relaxed? Was it a tough day so your breath might be short? Because one thing I know after almost 20 years of this is that regardless of how much yoga you do, you only end up learning about yourself. Sure, you're going to learn the stories and you're going to learn the bad jokes and the poses. But it's by learning all of those things and how they work on you, you end up learning about yourself. So just be reminded of that, my friends, as we go through the practice today. That you're going to learn lots of poses and lots of movements and get strength and flexibility and range of motion and balance and all these things. But in the end, the only thing we really learn is more about us. What we like, what we don't like, what's hard, what's easy, and what we can change and what may take more time. Let your practice be totally about you. And the role of the teacher that I get to play is just as an advisor to kind of introduce things or ideas that may not be normal. But ultimately, it's not about memorizing these things I offer, but feeling what you're going through. Having that level of awareness of yourself and your life that it fully deserves. Because another thing I know is that no one can ever truly know us on all levels like we can know ourselves. And the tapestry, the many artful pieces of ourselves, infinitely beautiful to look at and learn about. Bring the palms together at the chest, thumbs touching the sternum. We'll Om shortly 3 times and then we'll begin. Take a breath. Bow your head. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. And if you don't know what that might be, I offer the idea that your life is never stuck, static, or stale, that you live in the ever-flowing waters of change. Bring your hands into your lap, let your head rise, and your eyes open. Hi, Pratima. Look at you getting in there. So glad you made it. All right. So today, let's go ahead and come to a standing position. We're going to start with a few standing poses. We will continue to explore how different poses, especially how we move the spine, makes our hips move differently in Ekapada Rajyotasana and Ekapada Kapotanasana. Still lots of work to do on those. So stand up nice and tall. Stand wide on your yoga mat, about 3.5 to 4 foot apart. Watch out for any small dogs you might have on your yoga mat or other animals. All right, so standing nice and wide, 3.5 to 4 foot apart. Turn your left toes in slightly, so more in towards the center line of your body. Your right toes out away from you completely, so your feet are a 90-degree turn out from where they started. Stretch your arms out nice and wide. Feet roughly beneath the hands. So if you're ever wondering, am I standing wide enough? If your feet aren't at least as wide as your hands, start to try and stretch out a little bit. Don't worry if it's hard, right? Because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And you're here for something different than what your normal is. Bend the right knee, stretch that thigh bone that way towards the knee, or the knee towards the foot. Start opening up the hip into warrior two for a moment. So we're not going to nitpick this pose too much because there's lots to do today. But it would be not in the norm if I didn't offer some kind of different insight into how to make the pose work. Pressing your right heel into the floor, just the center of your heel. Stretch your toes away from your foot a little bit. You can lift them up to start and then try to stretch your toes out like you're trying to lengthen your foot away from the heel. And then shift your body weight from your upper torso, your spine, to your neck, leaning from the right, lean it to the left till it hits center. So you feel more weight in your left leg than you do just in your front right leg. Try to find that balance point between the two. Interlace your fingers behind your head. Push your hands gently into your head. Push your head into your hands. So your chin lifts, your neck's nice and tall, right? Lifting the spine means lifting the neck also. And then try to move your elbows back a little so your upper chest and back opens. And then bend that knee any degree. Open the hips. Spine is tall. Legs are open, wide. Keep your hands. Take your right elbow and keep your right knee also. Take your right elbow onto your right knee. So variation to side angle. The more you bend the right knee, the more you're going to be able to kind of get your upper body down into the pose. Keep your right arm where it is. Push your head into your hands so you're not crunching down in your neck. Stretch your left arm. Notice where your left elbow is. If you just straighten your elbow, your arm lengthens out directly over the head. Can you keep that same stretch to the side body as when your hand was behind your head? Can you keep the upper back flexed in that lifted action? Side angle, Parsvattanasana. So Virabhadrasana 2 to side angle to go from a standing hip opener to a lateral hip and back opener. Stretch your left arm straight up. Take a nice deep breath in. Feel the space between your left elbow and left shoulder. That's called your humerus bone. Pick yourself up as if a hand grabbed that muscle and pulled you upright. Very nice. Turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out. Just a couple standing up poses to warm you up. I don't know what your body's been through today, so we're going to find out. Hands behind your head. Push the hands into the head into the hands so you can lift your chin, elongate your neck, the whole spine comes up. Very good. Move your elbows back a little bit. It's easy for us to crunch forward. That lifted action takes a lot of work, but it's worth it. Bend your left knee, Virabhadrasana 2 for a moment. Slide that open. And then kind of feel where your body went. Does all your body weight lean into your left foot? Can you Push down through the left foot. Stretch the left toes out, even if they lift up to start, and then you lengthen them. You'll get there. And then your whole upper torso, the spine to the neck, leans into the right leg equal to the left leg. So your body weight is centered in spreading across the opening of the hip. Take your left elbow onto your left knee. Stretch out and down. You got it, Riley. Good job. Don't take it to the inside of the knee. Try to put the elbow joint. There you go. Don't make it too hard on yourself. Move the head back into the hands, everybody, especially Miss Shuba. Keep that neck moving, friend. Right arm. If you're kind of aware of where your right armpit, how your right ribs, your armpit, and your back is stretched open, keep that stretch. And then just stretch the right arm over your head. Lengthen through that side body. There you go. And then bend that left knee. The right arm and the left knee stretching for that other side of your room. Flex your glutes. Take your right arm straight up. Think about picking yourself up from the right bicep, from the right arm, all the way back up. Turn your toes in. Take both hands onto your hips. Press down through the hands. Press fairly firm into your pelvis. Lift the spine up nice and tall, lifting the head up, looking up a little. So you feel that upper back flex. You feel like there's a length to the front, but not by laying backwards. Fold forward at the hips, folding down into Pasadipodottanasana, standing straddle. But keep that nice long spine. The minute your hands hit the floor, try not to let yourself truncate. That means to scrunch, to shorten. Arms are going to be nice and straight. And even if your hands don't reach the floor comfortably, feel free to use props, bolsters, pillows, blocks, books, pots and pans, whatever you got to do. Arms are long. Look up and out like you were still looking up to the ceiling. You're stretching the head up. So your face should be facing forward. And notice how challenging that is to lift the head, neck, shoulder like that and still keep your hands on the floor. So go to your fingertips and only keep your fingertips down. If they were already there, great. And try to lift your chest up without lifting your fingertips off the floor. So your arms stretch and reach. The back body widens from the shoulder all the way down through the arm, reaching for the floor as you lift your chest and head up. And then hold. Flex your thighs. Push your thigh bones back. Think about your hips and your hamstrings and your thighs stretching for the world behind you as your upper body, your core, your back muscle, your chest, all stretching away from your hips. So there's like a separation point being in that middle pelvis, lower back region. Place both hands on your hips. Bring your spine upright. Come down to on your knees. If being on your knees is uncomfortable for you, like your mat's on a hard thing or you're working just on a hard floor, feel free to put a blanket underneath your knees or something soft to help take tension off. There's no reason to suffer unnecessarily. Thighs together, feet together, and then you're going to step your right foot forward and then stretch your right leg out to the right towards the corner of your yoga mat. So your right foot is slightly in front of your left knee. It's called Parangunstasana, swinging gait. We worked on this last week a little. They use it as a groin and hip opener for the backward bends and for the coming Ekapada and Kapottanasana. Stretch your arms out nice and wide. Try to keep your left hip above your left knee. She fixed it. Try to keep your right foot flat to the floor. Reach out your upper body over your right leg. Stretch as far as you can, reaching over that right side of your body with your right arm, right leg. And then take your right hand onto the floor on the inside of your right foot and shin. That hand might be near the knee, it might be near the foot. And if your hand can't touch the floor comfortably, like your hips screaming, your groin's mad, put your hand on a block or something. Left arm stretches straight up, reaches nice and high. Push down through the right foot and think about how much you can flex your right thigh muscle, the straight leg, and pull that right bone of the leg into the hip towards the left hip. How much of a crease and fold in the hip can you make? Your back will stretch, your hips will stretch. There's lots of different muscles that work here. If you want more, and remember for those of you that are new, I say if you want more, at this point, if you stayed in this part of the pose, it's a successful, wonderful pose. If you want more, is if you want to kind of encourage and push the boundaries a little, which can be healthy. But if it creates pain or tension, stay where you are. There's no shame in that. We're all at different levels. I probably couldn't do this pose as well as Tristan can. Right? Take your right hand onto your right foot itself, if you can reach it. Push down with your right hand to push your foot into the floor and pull your right leg like you're trying to drag your foot out from under your hand. Ooh, there it is. Feel that? So your right hand pushes that foot down. The right leg tries to pull the foot away. Take a nice breath. Bring your torso up. Pick yourself up by the left arm. Bring your right knee back to the floor. Stretch your left leg out. We're going to do it a couple times. We're not teching it out in one big go. We're going to piece it out. Achy. That's why we're doing the backward bend. Left leg nice and long. Remember, your left foot is just an inch or two in front of your right knee. They're not perfectly in line with each other laterally. That would create a lot of tension in the groin and hip. Not very good. Right hip stays above the right knee. Stretch your arms out wide. Lengthen your upper body out over that left side. Take a minute when you extend. How much can you move this left hip in first so that your whole side body extends? You're not just kind of bending in the middle. You're using your leg to move your pelvis. Move the hand to the floor just on the inside of the foot. Start there. Don't worry about putting your hand on the foot. I'm very excited so many of you go to it automatically. There's something about learning this, about how to move your hip first, then we can add extra pressure. Left arm is nice and long. Try not to sink down into the shoulder, but that right arm stretches up and away from you. So you're lengthening the back muscle by widening it. You're doing good, Riley. Keep it up. You got this. Miss Pratima, can you move your right knee to the right another inch or two? It's your right hip sticking out farther than the knee. So move your right knee. That's perfect. Yes. Excellent. That will make your groin work a little better, a little easier for you. Good. Now, if you want more, put your left hand on your left foot directly. Push your left hand down and use the strong muscle of your arm, even if you don't think it is. Trust me, it'll work. Push your hand on that foot and then try to drag the foot out from underneath the hand with the thigh muscle. Just being. A few more seconds, take a few more breaths. Push down through the right knee so your right thigh is active and lifting the body. Bring your right arm, or bring your body up, picking yourself up from the right arm. Switch your legs again. Wonderful pose for working the groin, the knee, the back. And there's a twisted component to it, which we're going to now work on. Stretch your right leg out to the side. My dog is very excited. All of you are doing so well. Look at him, just smile. Stretch your arms out wide, Padangusthasana. Shift your right hip towards the left. Set that pelvis alignment, because when you set your pelvis, your spine moves easier. You want mobility, you got to start thinking about how to move all this joint structure. Flex the muscles, extend out over the right leg as far as you could go. Take your right hand down onto the right foot If it is uncomfortable for your hand to be on the foot, put your hand on a block on the inside of the leg. Take your left hand down and grab your right wrist with your index finger and thumb of your left hand. So it just wraps around and grabs the hold. So your left palm will be on top of your back of your right hand. Now bend your elbows a little bit wide. So you feel that dragging your body down. Push your right hand onto the foot. Try to pull the foot from underneath your hand with your strong thigh muscle. And then holding onto your wrist with your left hand, pull your left elbow up to the ceiling. Start to rotate and twist the body any degree, like your head was eventually going to look up at the ceiling from under your left armpit. Takes a long time, don't worry, but we got to start moving it somehow. Flex your left thigh. There you go. So that thing is stable, and that will give you some more ability to move that right hip deeper into the pose by dragging the hip away from the foot. Feel that. Take a couple breaths. Remember what I said at the start, yoga is the process of learning about you. This may be a totally new pose for you, but how do you feel in it? What do you want from it? Other than to get out of it and for me to stop talking. Stretch your left arm straight up. Pick yourself up from that left bicep lifting you. Bring the arms down. Step your right foot back to where it was, knees on the floor. Then stretch your left leg out to the side. Good. Well done, everybody. You're getting more mobile with that. Arms out wide. Let's do it. Before you start shifting your upper torso, right here in the hip, pull your left hip towards the right hip. Make this, it goes back. Left hip goes this way. No, right hip stays. The right hip stays above the right knee. The left hip shifts towards the right hip and back slightly. Like it was going to park behind the right butt. You're trying to park the left butt behind the right butt. Like parallel parking. Reach out with your upper body over the leg, stretch long. Keep shifting that leg as you extend your torso. Make both parts move simultaneous. Take your hand onto the floor or the foot. Take your right hand down towards your left wrist. Grab the left wrist with the right index finger thumb. Bend the elbows wide. Work the leg first. Stay in this just for a moment. Feel the muscles of your back that might be moving. Try to breathe deeper when you're in these kind of things, especially new poses, because if you hold your breath, your body takes it like you're fighting something, right? You ever been scared? You hold your breath. You've been in a fight, hold your breath. Your body thinks you're fighting. It's going to treat this pose like it's a fight. Take a nice deep breath in as you exhale. Bend the elbows wide. Begin to try and roll that right shoulder, elbow, armpit towards the ceiling so you create rotation from the core. A lot of what I'm asking you to go through in these poses is to get your body prepped to be able to lift, lengthen, and move your spine from very deep open pelvic positions. You're welcome. Nice deep breath in. And for a moment, instead of trying to force all these parts and pieces, work on one part really well. Think about, can you just keep your thigh flexed for 5 more seconds? Can you let your ribs roll? Can you take 5 deep breaths that are calm and relaxed in the midst of all this challenge? Don't worry about doing everything perfect. There is no such thing. 20 years, I've never found the perfect end of a yoga pose. Take your right arm straight up. Take a nice deep breath in as you exhale. Pick yourself up from the right arm. Very nice. Go ahead, lay flat on your back, please. You'll lay flat on your back with your yoga mat there. You're going to reach your hands down alongside your yoga mat and grab a hold of the side of the yoga mat itself and pull the mat apart. Don't actually tear a hole in your mat if you're that kind of strong person. But pull the mat apart so you can squeeze your shoulder blades together and puff your chest towards the ceiling. with your shoulder joint still on the floor. So you're not pushing your head into the floor, but you're creating the bend of Setubandha, where you dome and lift the heart by rolling the top of the shoulder down into the floor and squeezing the shoulder blades together so the chest lifts. Both feet nice and flat to the floor. So bend your knees, placing the feet underneath the knee points themselves. And if you can you can do this with your feet and knees together, please do so. Push down through the feet and start to lift your hips. Only lift your hips 1 or 2 inches off the floor. Pull the yoga mat apart. Dome the heart more. Your chest, if your hips go up a little, your chest lifts even more. Now flex your glutes. Flex the buttock and think about the flesh and strength of your buttock tucking towards your knee joint. So it's like your tailbone is trying to lift up towards the inner knee. And then try to push through the feet more and lift even higher. And it feels like if you're working your legs correctly, you're almost sliding towards your shoulders, which is correct. You're not actually going to slide on the mat, but the more you push through the legs, like you're trying to straighten them, the more it's like your hips are rolling towards your shoulders and your shoulders press into the ground. There's bridge pose. Setubandha. And then breathe. How much more can you dome the heart not by pushing your low back up, but can you lift the sternum and spread the ribs on the higher part of your chest open? Can you squeeze your thighs tight even as you push down through the feet firmly so that the hamstring and thigh muscles begin to lift the body? Take another nice deep breath. Come on down. Good bridge pose. Move your feet 1 inch closer to your hips. Grab your yoga mat, pull it apart. Lift your hips a couple inches, flex the buttocks and tuck that tailbone up so it feels like the glutes are picking up your pelvis, not your lower back. There you go, Riley, you got it. Nice, Shubha. Now start to straighten the legs, push through the feet more and keep lifting the hips up like you're just trying to straighten your legs and roll your body towards your rib cage. There you go. Nicely done, everybody. You got this. Now, the fun part. Instead of holding the yoga mat, can you push your palms flat into the floor and get the same action? Oh, it feels different. Notice your wrists are popped up. Push those wrist points down. Flatten them palms. Try to still roll the shoulders down to the floor, even though the hands are pressing down. Come on down and rest for a moment. Okay. Ready? Grab your yoga mat again. Go through it in stages. We just want to get suppleness and mobility to the spine. Pull the yoga mat apart. Dome the heart, squeeze the shoulder blades together, lift the chest so you can take very deep breaths to the most upper part of your lungs. The more you dome the chest bone like that, the less pressure the lungs have on them from the bones of your ribs. So it lets you take this very deep breath that stretches the lungs and the rib cage. Press down through the feet, lift your hips up, flex the glutes. Remember, your glutes push your pelvis up. Your legs push through the mat like you're going to straighten the legs to move your hips towards your chest to create the bend. Take both palms flat onto the floor again. Try to push the arm between your shoulder and elbow down. So your bicep, tricep, push really hard to the floor. And then bend your elbows and take both hands, palms, and put them on your buttocks and push yourself a little higher. There you go. If you got a hold of your glute, great. Now push your arms down and push your legs, feet down, and get some more height so you can move your hands closer to your low back. Woo! There's the challenge. You got it, Pratima. You want a tip to make it better? Walk your elbows a little bit closer to each other. Lean onto your right shoulder, tuck your left elbow in. Lean onto your left shoulder elbow, tuck the right one in. Woo! Now push through them feet. There you go, Riley. You got this. Good job. Nice prop. Good. Taking the hands out of that. Walk your feet a little closer, Shubha. Last 5 seconds. Walk the feet closer to your body, not farther away, dear. There you go. Now work your legs. Stretch them along, Shubha. There you go. 3 more minutes. Pratima just dropped out. Well, she didn't think that was a funny joke. Lay down. Good job. Well done, everybody. Yeah. One more time. We're going to go one more time, and then we're going to do another part of it. Setu Bandha is such an interesting pose because it can do so much for the hip and the groin and the back muscles and really prep our lower spines for very, very challenging stuff. So take a couple breaths before we get back into it. Remember, yoga class, a lot of yoga classes talking yourself into the pose rather than out of it. Bend your knees, plant both feet flat to the floor, grab a hold of the yoga mat, go through it in all the parts and pieces. So as you explore new things of this pose, you start with something you know works. Grab the yoga mat, pull the mat apart so you dome the heart. Press down through the feet, begin to lift the hips, pause at a couple inches, flex your glutes so hard that they're going to cramp. Remember, every cheek looks cuter with a dimple. So put some dimples. Push your bicep and elbow down into the floor hard. Bend your elbows and take your hands onto your glutes. Press your hands into your body to help get some lift. Lean onto one shoulder and elbow just a little to tuck the opposite in. So lean to your right, tuck the left. Lean to the left, tuck the right. So walking your hands closer towards your low back. Top of the glute. It'd be like the heel of your hand is at the top of your pelvis with the fingers pointing down towards your glutes themselves over time. It may take a while to get there. Ready for the fun part? Take your thighs, bring them together. And now stretch your right leg. Walk your right foot away from your body like you're going to straighten it out with the foot still on the floor. So the left leg must do the work of both. So stretch that right leg straight as you can. But your foot does not get off your yoga mat. Keep it all tight to the center body. Bend your right knee, do your left leg. Strong upper back, you got this. All right, do both legs, try them both. Have fun for 2 seconds. Experiment. All right, come in for a landing. Yeah, if you have wrist tension, Tristan had a little bit of wrist tension. That is normal. Part of what that is you're letting your body weight hang in the hands. You have to push the hands actively into the glute to get that lift. That stabilizes your wrist and that helps your body come up. Something for later. There'll be more to explore. All right. Laying on your back, draw your right knee to your chest. Keep your left leg straight, laying on the floor. Take your right hand and arm onto the inside of your right leg, grabbing the arch of your right foot with your right hand. Left arm, left leg, just laying on the floor. Take your right leg and unbend it so the foot is right above the knee. Pause. Stretch your left leg longer, pressing the left thigh down. Think about your left thigh trying to move away from the hip, so your low back might even arch a little bit. Bend your right elbow, pull your right knee down towards the floor a little to start stretching that groin out. Now, if you feel your left thigh and hip come springing up away from the floor, it's more important to stabilize your hip and thigh than it is to force an intense stretch in the right groin. Trust me, even if you kept your left hip and thigh down, your right groin will stretch. But the difference is with your hip stable, you're not going to twist your low back up. We want to try and create stable elongation. What I mean by that is if your left hip comes up, the groin muscles you're stretching actually just cramp harder. They don't get as much stretch as you need. So the more you work your left leg and then add a little bit of the right leg, oh, so intense. Try to keep your right foot above the knee. The right heel does not come down towards the buttock. That would shorten your hamstring. Go ahead, switch legs. Drop the right foot, stretch it out, bend the left knee to the chest, grab that left foot with the left hand. Pick the foot up so it's above the knee. Set your right leg and thigh. Put your intention in doing this from stability, and then pull down on that left leg. Then begin to open up that hip, groin, thigh. It's all right if you fall over. I fall over in this pose all the time. And breathe. The experimentation of how do you add different things to this shouldn't be from how much harder do you force the knee down, but how much more can you stretch the leg long? Deeper breath you can take. No yoga pose said eventually do this pose and don't breathe and find enlightenment. I have yet to figure out that pose. All the yoga poses are open your body, take a deeper breath, make more space. So if you feel like you're cramping yourself, give yourself some room to wiggle. Don't be on 19 minutes from down. Take the left leg out of the pose. Sit on up. If you have a yoga block or bolster, I would grab it now. Bolster. I would prefer a bolster over a yoga block. If you don't have either of those, some kind of pillow just for your hip elevation will be good because we're going to work Ekapada Rajatapasana. And if your hips are tight, you won't get good pigeon pose if you don't have some elevation. So have a seat on your block or bolster. If you don't, you just have to do it without. You sit on the floor with your shin bones crossed. Right shin in front of left. So have a seat on your block or bolster with your shins crossed, your right shin in front of your left shin. Perfect, Riley. Sitting on the block is good. With your right leg in front of your left leg, there we go. Sorry, we had technical difficulty. With the right leg in front of the left leg, lean to your left, put your left hand on the floor, stretch your right leg straight out in front of you. Rotate your right thigh internally a little bit. So the leg and the foot twist in. Your right hip may lift up. Lift your right leg up into the air an inch or two and swing the leg behind you, turning your upper body forward at the same time. So it's like a weather vane twisting on a center point. So lift your right leg up, swing your right leg out to the right, Miss Riley. You got it. Lift your right leg up into the air and swing it behind you, friend. Yeah, just like that. Yeah. I made it complicated, trust me. It's all right. Just get your leg back. There, you get it. That's perfect. Place both hands in front of you on the floor. There you go. So one of the things I want you to do is look at your left knee, and your left knee should not be directly in front of your left hip. It should be slightly out to the side of your left hip, just a little. This eventually is what helps open up the front shin bone to be more parallel across the mat, not torquing your knee. We're going to work the back leg in this pose a little bit, and then we're going to work the upper body. Think about your back leg, your right leg, and stretch the leg away from you while you're still flexing that right thigh bone, not to push the knee into the floor, not to lift the leg up off the floor. But if you think about flexing this right knee and pulling the knee towards the hip, so that kneecap is going to travel along that thigh muscle, that will stabilize your right hip joint for what's to come. Flex your left thigh and push your left foot and shin bone into the floor as firm as you can. So your back leg The knee is pulling towards the hip. The front leg, the left shin bone's pushing down. Lift your chest up nice and tall. Lift your spine tall, including the neck. Up on the fingertips if you can. Stretch your right arm straight up into the sky.
Hi, Dustin.
Yes,
I got to leave. I have some deadline going on, so I got to leave. But thank you for the class.
Thank you. As always, lovely to have you, dear.
Thank you.
Switch arms. Now your left arm up. Now I'm asking you to do this at one at a time. I know many of you can do both, but I want you to pay attention. Can you keep your legs flexed while moving the arms? The strength of your legs is what's going to define your ability to fold into the backward bends of this pose. Stretch both arms up. Push that left shin bone down. It's almost like the left leg was trying to straighten how much that leg is trying to push down. Your left leg almost pushes you backwards. It actually does push you backwards over time, especially in the next pose. Bring your hands down onto the floor. Oh, we're not done yet. Bend your back knee. Pick your foot up as high as you can. Now, your back knee is still, your back thigh is still very flexed, like this knee is trying to pull towards your hip. So that quad is very engaged. This is what creates the stabilizing of the pelvis that keeps your low back from getting torqued in these poses. Chest up nice and tall. Up on the fingertips, push the left shin bone down. Take your left hand back and grab your foot. Just behind you. Just reach behind you and grab it. Push your foot against your hand. You must now begin to train the strength of your leg to drag your body backwards. So if you're pulling on your foot with your arm, like you're trying to pull your foot to your glute, you're not going to get the extension of moving back. Work your left shin. Try to straighten your back leg and lay your foot back on the floor while your hand holds it. Very good. Much better, Pratima. That's getting much better for you. And you too, Shubha. Now take your right arm straight up at the air at the same time. Front leg strong. Woo, get the cramps, get them hip cramps. Take your right arm down. Take your right hand and grab your back foot. Push the foot against the hand. Create that extension. Begin to find what muscles on your glute and hamstring have to work to open that leg and back up. Take your left arm up. What does it take to trust your upper body to lean into the bend? That takes leg stability. You got it, Riley. Don't give up. Work that left leg, Miss Riley. That's going to help. There you go. Now flex your right thigh, Riley. You got this. There you go. Woohoo! Well done. Take a nice breath. Stretch nice and tall through that left arm and lean the left arm back with the rest of your body for a brief moment. Remember the whole body, including the spine. The head is part of it. Stretch the spine long. Hands down. Lean to your left. Swing your right leg out of the pose back to where you started. Very good, everybody. Switch legs. Put your left shin in front of your right shin, please. We have to move around because we got dogs and doors in the way. You just get to switch your shin bones. So left shin in front of right. Lean onto your right hand a little bit. Stretch your left leg straight out in front of you. Rotate your thigh internally a little bit. Lift your left thigh up an inch or two. Swing that whole leg around behind you as you move your upper body, both hands to the floor. Great way to practice opening your hip joint, get some mobility into that thing. Especially after you sit a lot in chairs, like sit on your floor and just do that action into pigeon pose and out, Prachapicha, and just back and forth with each leg. You will make your hip flexors really quite aware and also feel really good. Please make sure to look at your right knee and make sure your right knee is not in front of your hip, that it's slightly out to the side. Back leg, left leg. Flex that thigh like you're trying to pull the kneecap up to the hip, please. Flex your right thigh like you're trying to straighten the leg and push the right shin bone down. I'm not asking you to push the right knee hard into the floor specifically. I want you to push the shin bone, the bone between your ankle and knee joint, towards the floor because that makes the thigh muscle flex to do so. I don't want you to put pressure on joints. That breaks joints. Stretch your right arm straight up into the air. One hip may be tighter than the other. That's why we use the bolsters and blocks. Switch arms. Both arms. Work that back leg, work that front leg. The more height you want to be able to backward bend, lift your spine, your legs must do the work. We learned this in Tadasana. The thigh muscles must engage so we may push against gravity. Both hands on the floor. Bend your left knee. Right hand reaches behind you, grabs the foot. Try to push the foot against the hand. Pull that knee, flex that kneecap, flex that thigh, and pull that knee towards the hip, the left hip, as you try to straighten that left leg. Let your upper body draw back. Begin, like I said, to experiment what it takes to let your body move into that extension behind you. We sit slouched a lot. We sit in cars. There's a lot of forward and down pressure because of the world. We can create an immense amount of power and freedom of our spine by moving it backwards. Mr. Angro would say to everybody that asked, what should we do as we progress in age? And he would emphatically, without hesitation, say, you must do backward bends. And as I've gotten older, man ain't wrong. Switch hands. Left arm, left hand holding. Let the left arm be dragged back by the foot. Like if I was to grab your leg and pull it to the floor, can you let your upper body lean with the strength of your thigh? Stretch your right arm straight up to the heavens. Reach for it. Work your legs first. Get your legs flexed first before you fling your arms around. Bring the arm down. Take your left leg out of the pose by swinging it back to sitting cross-legged. Now for the fun pose, right? Ready for the challenge, Kapotanasana. You're going to take the bolster out, set it off to the side. You won't need it. Stand up. We're going to get into Kapotanasana a different way. I've always offered a different way these last 4 weeks of us working on this pose, because I like to offer a little different insight to how your hips, back, and body move when you get into this. Stand nice and wide on your yoga mat, 3.5 to 4 foot apart. Turn the toes in slightly. 4. Place the hands on your hips, lift your spine nice and tall, lift the head, neck. Fold forward at the hips, taking both hands onto the floor. Pasadipodottanasana, standing straddle stretch again. We already did it once, so should be ready. See what the difference is this time versus last time, though. I bet you there's a difference. Fingertips only on the floor, lift the head, neck up, stretch the spine to look outward. Step a little wider, Riley. Step a little wider, Shubha. There you go. I'm pretty sure you both own those yoga mats. You're not renting them or by the inch. You get to use the whole thing if you want. There you go, Riley. You're taller than you think. That's perfect. Bend your knees a little bit. Bend both of them. Turn your right toes out away from you like we did in Warrior 2 in side angle. Walk both hands to your right foot. So you're in a lunge. Let your back heel come up off the floor so your left knee points straight down to the ground. Right knee very deeply bent. Stretch don't take your left knee down yet. Some of you are excited. Bend your right knee deeper and stretch your knee past your toes a little. Now let your left knee come to the floor and keep flexing, moving your hips forward so your right knee continues to extend past the toes. Nice, everybody. Much improvement all around. All right, so there's part one. Part two. Left thigh must be flexed like Ekapada Rajpatasana, what we just did. So flex your left thigh muscle like you're going to pick your left kneecap, pull it towards your hip. And now bend your back knee, picking your left foot up off the floor as high as it can while keeping that thigh flex. That thigh muscle stabilizes your pelvis to release your groin over time. Place both hands on your right knee, lift your chest up like we've been working on. Very good, everybody. This is lovely to see. Flex your left thigh, flex that, pull that kneecap of the back leg towards the hip. Flex your right thigh and pull your right kneecap towards your hip. Think about those thigh muscles trying to drag that joint towards your hip. And then flex your glutes and think about the space between your glutes, the gluteal cleft. Stretch the line of your glute lower from the top all the way to the bottom. So it's like you're trying to take your top of your glute, gluteal cleft, the split, down towards the right heel. There you go. Stretch both arms up if you can. There you go, right, you got it. And now everybody, stretch your right knee farther forward, lunge the leg. That's it, all at the same time. Are we aware? No one has to answer, you're all muted. But we are aware, I can tell. Take a breath. Take your hands down. Don't lose your back leg, we ain't out of the woods yet. Bend your left knee again, you're cramping. Both hands on your right knee, pick your chest up. We got to add to it, right? Every week we practice a different stage of the pose. We ask ourselves to fully explore us. Take your left hand behind you and grab your foot. Stretch the right knee out past the foot so the hips come down into the lunge. Push your back foot against your hand like you were going to lay your foot back on the floor so it drags your chest backwards. Lovely. Remember, if this hurts your knees, it's uncomfortable on your knee joint, totally get something to put under it. If you're having a cramp, I'm happy for you. I promise you, you will live. Never seen anyone die from a cramp. Sure, it's possible. Switch hands, so now it's the right hand. All right, come on down. Go back to hands on the floor. Pick your left knee up off the floor. Straighten your right leg. Walk your hands back into the center of the mat, back to standing straddle. So you go all the way back to where you started. So you get relief in this pose. Turn your toes in, Miss Riley. Turn your toes in, everybody, actually. Don't let your toes go straying off. I know this is the time of class where the body wants to start wandering off. We got 2 or 3 minutes left. Stay in it. Bend your knees slightly. Turn your left toes out. Take both hands to your left foot into a lunge. So you rotate that hip and pelvis. The more mobility we create in that space, the better we will all be. Keep your right knee up off the floor. Bend your left knee deep as you can. Stretch that lunge. And then when you've gone your max, then take your right knee to the floor. The left knee does not stay above the left heel on this. I just want to be clear. That knee eventually clears that whole foot. One day your right hamstring or left will lay on its same calf. If you practice. Ooh, good use of wall approachment. Use it. Bend your back knee. Pick your foot up off the floor, but still work the left leg forward and the hips down. Flex your left thigh like you're going to pull the kneecap towards the hip. Do it on both legs. Nice. Both hands on your left knee, chest up, but don't let your glutes lift up. Try to keep your glutes in it. You're wider than you were last week. Oh, you're just making it harder. Bring your left foot back. There you go. Flex the thighs, lunge forward. Think about the gluteal cleft right between each glute. It drags down from top to bottom towards the earth. Take your right hand back, grab your right foot. I know we didn't take the arms up. I'll get there. We're just trying to get past the hard part. Push the foot against the hand like your foot's going to lay on the floor again, because one day it will, I promise. You practice enough, totally possible. Switch hands, left hand holds the foot. Push that leg, stretch that leg long as you flex the glutes, bringing the glutes down into the pose. Let go of the foot, stretch both arms up as high as you can, keeping the back foot up off the floor. Flexing that left knee down into the lunge position. Stretch your left knee past your toes. There you go, Riley. Keep going. You got it, friend. It is a deep drop of the hips, like your left hamstring is going to lay on your left calf. Very good. Take a breath. Hands down. Take your left foot out of the pose. Lay on your back, please. Nicely done. You made it. Now is the fun part. Now you get to collect all the parts and pieces that you've created for yourself and do something with them. In Savasana. Let your eyes close for a few minutes. And again, find your breath. The question I asked at the start, what qualities would you use to describe your breath? What was your day like? Just as what your breath could tell you. You may not have known much. You may have known a lot. But begin to feel your body now. Feel the state of your breath through your body. What's different now about your breath than was an hour ago? And remember, it's different because you went through something. You went through challenge, physical, maybe mental, maybe emotional. And you came into the end of something where now you get a chance to feel everything that you created and did. Total control. So feel what you went through, my friends. And if there's something that was really good for you, something positive or something that you feel like now you have an idea to work on or were challenged, hold on to it. And recognize what it took to get through that challenge. Determination, strength, endurance, patience. That you practiced all of those things in this work. You not just learned something about yourself, but you created more of those things for yourself. I did not give them to you. No yoga teacher does, and anyone that says they does are lying. But you created for yourself all these things. So take what you need, my friends, for the next minute or two, feeling the breath, feeling the body, letting your Savasana be one of exploration and rest, and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice. Slowly increase the depths of your breathing. Begin to awaken the body, opening, closing the hands, pointing, flexing the feet. When you're ready, bend the knees, roll your body to the right side, and slowly up you come.